Tonight, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukah, a man held in great reverence by many across the religious divide, whose work as a tireless advocate for justice and champion of the cause of the Nigerian masses is deservedly hugely respected. And in his protests against bad governance, he's remained consistent, a man with an unquestionably strong social conscience. And it is that conscience that drives him to try to heal Nigeria's many wounds. He's done it as a member of the Human Rights Violations Investigation Commission, otherwise known as the Oputa Panel, as secretary of the National Political Reform Conference, and as facilitator of the Ogoni reconciliation process. As the former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, put it, Bishop Kukah has become a measuring rod of Nigeria's readiness to confront its troubles. And now he's written a new book, Witness to Reconciliation, about his role as the presidential facilitator of that Ogoni reconciliation process, in which he tried to bring the Ogoni people, the Shell Oil Company, and the Nigerian government together following the execution of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni 8 in 1995 by the Abacha regime. Fast forward to the 2023 presidential inauguration lecture held here in Abuja on the eve of the swearing in, and you would have heard Bishop Kukah calling on the new government of Bola Tinubu to make uniting Nigerians a top priority.
I have not turned the light and seen a part where Muslims are living that they have light. I've not seen a part of the country where Muslims are eating and the rest of us are not eating. So we must come to terms with the fact that we are not bleeding, we are not suffering because we are Christians or Muslims, but we are in a country that is malfunctioning. How to make that country work for the rich, for the poor, for the aged, and for everybody is a challenge. It's not a challenge that everybody can win, but I think it's a challenge that...
Well, that's a little snippet there, Bishop Matthew Kukah, and I'm delighted to say that Bishop Kukah joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed, and congratulations on the work you're doing and also the book that you've written. Because Nigeria has a new president, and as I said, you were one of those who delivered a speech at the inaugural lecture, along with the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, President Buhari, etc. You called on President Tinubu to make uniting Nigeria a top priority, to identify what you call the scars, wounds, injuries of Nigerians, to give precedence to healing. How do you reckon he should go about doing that when some see him as the embodiment of those very injuries and divisions, and even refuse to accept him as the country's legitimate president?
Well, thank you very much, Charles, and I must, I want to thank you for your enormous generosity and appreciation. You know, I have been I keep saying it, and I'm sure many people listening to me must be bored. This country has been extraordinarily good to me. I can say, without sounding arrogant, I'm perhaps the only Nigerian who, from 1999 till date, has spoken almost at every inauguration. I spoke in 1999 at the inauguration of Obasanjo, and I spoke at the inauguration of Yaradua. I spoke at the inauguration of Goodluck Jonathan. And when when the Governors Forum took over, so I've been there. For me, the challenge for us in Nigeria now is, as the scripture says, to be calm and know that God is on his throne. I am very pleased with the body language of some of the principal actors. And I speak here about my friend Peter Obi, Atiku, and other contestants. And I think that their body language suggests that the ball is now in the court of those who are now sworn in as president and vice president. And I read the speech, but I also made the point. This is not a time for triumphalism. Usually the difficulties and the challenges are how to keep some of the hawks in government in check. And the decisions that the president takes in the next few days, those decisions are going to be very crucial to where, because there will be pointers to where this country is going. For example, and I give you a very simple example. Again, people have been ticking off the names that have been called. We don't know how long it's going to be, but you get a sense of deja vu. We've been here before. This is what Buhari did to us. So and I think that the vice president also took a symbolic gesture, which I think the president must borrow from. That for no matter how long this lasts, because we are literally on a tentative, it's not a good place to be, because until the Supreme Court has had a final decision, everything you're holding is waiting for the final decision of the VAR. So, but for now, we can gain speed. One, by appreciating the degree of injury that Nigerians have suffered. And this is not something that anybody can take lightly. Nigerians are very angry. There's a lot of people who are really, really genuinely, and they've earned the right to be angry. The processes didn't go well. We ought not to be where we are. I served as a member of the Electoral Reform Committee. And had the government then taken seriously the recommendations we made, we wouldn't have been where we are. But like Nigerian politicians like the dark spots, where you can operate undercover. They want the opportunities to do the wrong things. So they refuse to amend this, take the recommendations that we made, which was eloquently that let us conclude all of these processes before you swear anybody in. Because we know, every Nigerian knows that once you are sworn in, the resources of state are available to you. But notwithstanding that, we shouldn't be ahead of ourselves. I just think that President Bola Tinubu has seen it all. He probably, and I believe he understands, that he must move away from the mistakes that his predecessor made. Namely, to treat this country as if it was a country between the defeated and the conquered. So that's why I'm expecting that in the next few days, we should be able to hear appointments that send a signal that we want, that people can be calm, and that everybody is going to have a seat at the table.
It's very interesting that the way that the administration has started its run of power has made the news internationally. I'll come to that in a minute, but all the drama and crisis surrounding the fuel subsidy removal and all the controversy that's been looming over it for decades, and now the knock-on effect that we're seeing after what appeared to be an off-the-cuff remark by the new president. What does that say to you about Nigeria and its politics?
I don't know whether it may have been off the cuff. You don't know. Maybe that was maybe a bullet he had hidden. I don't know. But whatever it is, he's the president, and he's going to live with the consequences of the decision he has made. When the Catholic Church says that the Pope is infallible, it's not because the Pope can say who is going to win the Premier League. Or it's not because, that the Pope has an opinion. No, it is that whatever the Holy Father says at the end would have taken years and years, and it's an aggregation of what the Catholic Church feels strongly about. So, and to some extent, a president cannot make a mistake. Let me put it that way. What I mean is, and this was one of the sad things about Buhari's administration, I'm sorry to say that it's not possible that you have people for 8 years sitting on the same seat, doing the same things. Nobody shift on his seat. Nothing happened. Even though things were not working, nobody changed a jersey. It says a lot. The point is that whatever decisions he may have taken, whether he decided to include it in the speech or it wasn't in the speech, or that somebody didn't want it in the speech and he wanted it in the speech, he has to live with the consequences. And that's why I think at another level, maybe history may judge him wisely that he decided to bite the bullet now. And because I've listened to a few people, my name is Matthew, not Rotus. Those are the guys who have the expertise. So this is an area I don't know anything about. All I'm interested in is the sufferings of ordinary people who are already in pain. And how the president is going to walk through by taking the mistakes that were made with the last administration. This assumption that you can alleviate poverty by just going around and distributing pennies to people, it's not going to work. And many critics are saying, shouldn't we have created a frame for how this is going to operate? But I would like to think that perhaps Bola Tinubu has been on the block long enough to know where the corpses are hidden. In that way, whether there's an element of surprise, We just have to wait and see what happens next. But my concern is a serious appreciation of the amount of suffering that Nigerians have gone through.
But given, finish what you're
and I
saying.
think we must do everything possible, because the social consequences could be tremendous. And finally, you are a journalist. If you're following a story and you have to keep correcting and trying to say what it was you meant to say, there's a problem. The government has to then develop a strategic means of communicating with ordinary Nigerians about why we are where we are, where we hope to get to, and why we are doing the things we are doing. And I think an effective communication strategy is fundamental to how we progress, despite the difficulties that seem to loom in the horizon.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But I mean, given the fact that we don't know what's going to happen over the next few days or weeks or months, as you said, I mean, based on what we know, which is that there's been the removal of the subsidy, even NNPC has raised its prices. Should he have done things for the people, these poor people that are of such concern to you, first before removing the subsidy? Because clearly now they're going to be ravaged by inflation first and suffering first before whatever measures to ease the impact come on stream.
Well, you know what they say, you don't have to make the perfect the enemy of the good. We don't know yet what is going to happen and what the president is going to roll out in the next few days. We don't know. But I'm saying, and this is perhaps where my problem is, that perhaps a greater clarity was expected. And this is not something that you are expecting your aides to try and begin to patch up what you meant to say, and so on and so forth. So I think what happens in the next few days will tell us. First of all, the meeting with the NNPC people, the meeting with the central bank governor, the meeting with all the people that matter. But critical to all of this is the fact that we've been running a very fraudulent state, and I've argued severally that governance in Nigeria still is a criminal enterprise. I mean, there's very little in the structure of governance in Nigeria that suggests that those who have designed policies have a clarity of where they want the country to go to. You have a National Assembly now, the stories, the gory stories you hear. You have people who have found themselves in National Assembly, they don't have the faintest idea. People who can't sign their signature. Humongous sums of money going in different directions. We've been told that this whole thing has been a scam. If it's a scam, it's not a scam by spirits. I'd like to see the names of all those who have been benefiting from this whole thing in the first place. And unless and until, as they say when you're fighting corruption, if you don't make examples, then you are going to be in trouble. Because the terrible thing that can happen to any government is when criminals recycle themselves, refurbish, change their jerseys, and enter into politics, either directly, or they become sponsors of political actors who act on their behalf, not on behalf of the citizens and the state. And this has been our story in Nigeria for a very, very long time. So, and that is why, Nigerians have been extraordinarily patient. People like myself, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of telling people to wait. Things are going to get better. But we must be grateful to ordinary Nigerians that we've remained resilient in spite of all this, not because of the things government has done. But I think that government must put something very urgently on the table that goes beyond the grandstanding of activists in different segments of society, whether it's labor, because the issues are much more complicated than that. At the end of the day, ordinary people need to be told, how are we going to move forward? Where is your seat at the table? Because like they say, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you are the menu. And I think ordinary Nigerians have paid enough price in terms of sacrifice. So I think that the legitimacy of this government, like any other government, will depend on the kind of signals that it sends out there.
No, absolutely. And I have to make an observation. I mean, you're just so forthright in the way you talk, and very direct and completely not fearful or particularly bothered about who you're sort of criticizing. And I wonder what it's like when you meet, because you were a fierce critic of President Buhari, And when you meet him in public places, for example, you were at that inaugural lecture, you were delivering the lecture and so on, and he was there. I mean, how does he respond to you? Because you had quite a few run-ins with his administration.
Strange enough, I'm writing a book. It'll probably be
I'd love to see that book.
No, I've only just gotten started. It's going to probably be, I shouldn't be telling you, but I'm putting some of these things together. Look, President Buhari and I, we go back, and I'm not sure I can call him my friend because he's probably much too higher than that. But I think he also understands where I'm coming from. I didn't start yesterday. I have never attempted to insult or abuse anybody. And indeed, when I heard people saying that the presidency was very uncomfortable with me, I booked an appointment. I went to see the president, eyeball to eyeball, and I said, sir, this is what I hear. And he just laughed. I have met him in several places. President Buhari has not shown me the slightest sign. Maybe that is his demeanor, but he also, I think he understands that there's nothing I'm saying that is personal.
Yeah.
And there is no Nigerian president, I've not, as I said, everything I say cannot be correct. It's not possible. But I have not spoken out of malice. I'm just convinced, and I have paid the price. Let me say, I paid my dues. I think I have a bit of understanding about how countries are built. I also think I have paid enough attention, and I'm a student of Nigeria. I also think that I have moral obligations as a priest of the Catholic Church. Let me be clear about that. That we have all the ingredients, we have a bit of understanding. There's absolutely nothing in is it the bureaucracy, is it education, is it diplomacy? The Catholic Church started it all. So we have a bit of material about, and ideas about how do you build a good society. And for me, I will remain relentless. There's none of these actors that I don't know, but I don't, when it comes to these matters, we're not looking, it's not about a friendship club. It's about how do we fix our country. And I'm not saying it because I have all the answers, but clearly the nepotism that passed for governance, the price is what we are seeing. That is how much goodwill just hemorrhaged. Because you see, people talk about Lee Kuan Yew and they talk about Singapore. But if you see what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew first of all took a decision. Because he knows that the public service is the conveyor belt of all the good intentions that a president may have. Now, you may be sitting here, perhaps the best anchor. But if these guys who are managing the cameras are not able to do their job, there's nothing that gets done. So he placed emphasis on the quality of men and women that got into the public service. You got a first class, you got the best result, you went to public service. All right? And by 1980 or thereabout, the public servants of Singapore were earning far more salaries than the people in public service. And they were the highest paid civil servants anywhere in the world. So when you now have a situation, and compared with the Nigerian situation, where people are getting jobs, it's almost like sitting in the palace, in a feudal palace, where you're getting jobs by whispers. And frankly, one of the things I like to say to this government, that there has to be a forensic audit. There has to be a forensic audit. Let everybody show his certificate and let's see how and why. What is it that qualified you to become chief? What is it that qualified you to be where you are? Because if there's nothing magical in all of this. But if you do not have a threshold, if there are no finishing posts, then there is no need playing a game. So for me, those are really the issues. So if you talk about the President Buhari and any other, I think in fairness to them, they know that my heart is in the right place. Let me just give you an example. General Abdul Salam, the chairman of our National Peace Committee.
Yeah.
When I got this invitation to speak, first of all, I called him. I happened to be in London, so I went to see him. And I said, look, people have asked me to speak. And he looks at me and he says, and I said to him, I'm surprised they would be asking me to speak. And he says to me, you may make us unhappy, but we know you are honest. I shared the letter with Peter Obi. I said, because my friend said, look, this is what is happening. And Peter Obi says to me, I'm very delighted. Please go. Because I know what you are going to say. So there's nothing I'm saying that is personal. I know, and everybody knows that we ought not to be where we are, because this country should not be stagnating. We should not be decaying.
You make a very good point, Bishop. And you mentioned the fact that you were planning to put together another book in the series, let me put it that way, because you've written a lot of books. And just looking at a scan of the reviews of your most recent book, Witness to Reconciliation, I see that the foreword is written by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. That's a huge endorsement, but also the fact that everyone who participated in that reconciliation process, from the then Governor of Rivers State, Peter Odili, to the Ogoni leaders, to Shell, all of them were united in commending the decision by President Obasanjo to choose you as the person to facilitate that reconciliation. I mean, that's a huge vote of confidence. Just briefly tell us about that book. It's a very humbling thing. I decided to write the book. First of all, the first book I wrote, because I believe nation building is about storytelling. Now, the first book, Witness to Justice, was an account of my experience in Oputa panel. And I'm using a participant observer methodology, just to explain some of the issues as I saw them. The second book is Witness to Reconciliation, which is my story of involvement in Ogoni land. There's going to be another witness. I won't tell you the title, but it will be out next year if God spares my life. One, because I think that this story, there's nothing that is miraculous. The more you have an opportunity to be with those in power, and occasionally I've always tried to tell my friends who are professors, people in the university, that when you are called upon to serve, please do so. But if you do get a chance to serve, you owe yourself, you owe your family, you owe the country a story. So I think that for me, most people who have served in government as governors, who have served as Senate presidents, who have served as speakers, they owe the country a story. So what I've done in that book is, Justin Welby that you're talking about is a personal friend, and we're looking at pictures of the book. I took over the work from first of all, General Abacha set up a committee chaired by the late Akinyele of happy memory, and then they dropped the ball. They got tired, and then General Gowon was appointed. He took up the job. I think after about a year or so, he said he couldn't continue. Then Justice Welby took over. And after some time, he too said, look, and I think the Ogonis had been characterized in a way, a manner that I appreciated during Oputa panel. And if you read Witness to Justice, I also tell my story about, I never met Kensaro Wiwa, but even a faction of the Ogoni people were also complaining. So there was a lot of opposition even to my appointment. But long story short, when I got this appointment, President Obasanjo said to me, look, we've been trying, every time we call somebody's name, the Ogonis are happy, Shell is not happy. We call a name, Shell is happy, the Ogonis are not happy. But we call your name after a long search, and everybody is happy. So would you please do this for us? And this was as we were ending the political reform conference, of which I had been appointed secretary. And I'm saying to Obasanjo, look, I've got parish work to do in Kaduna. I just come back from the Kennedy School. I was anxious to do a lot of things with my time, and the clock is running. And President Obasanjo said to me, okay, look, just calm down. I've spoken to your bishop. I go to my Archbishop of blessed memory. I said, look, this is what, and Archbishop says, well, even before you spoke to me, President Obasanjo has already spoken to me. It's part of your pastoral work anyway. So the account is a story of my experiences. And for me, I had to present the book formally in Ogoni land. In Port Harcourt, because for me, it was about the Ogoni people. And if you read the story, I don't know, you know what you make out of it. Yes, I will certainly. I've kind of scanned it, but I will get into it a lot. But congratulations on that. But you talked about the things, there's so many things you have. Where do you find the time to do all this work on a local and national level? Because beyond what we see you doing on television, for example, the inaugural lecture and all the rest of it, and what we read about in newspapers and online, there is so much more that's going on behind the headlines, including the writing of books, the charity work, the advice and the support, the pastoral work, the support to so many. How do you do it and still keep smiling and managing to keep so many appointments, like turning up on time on Arise News and I didn't come for this interview. I came to support my yeah, but I waylaid you, didn't I? Okay. No, Charles, I don't know. Sometimes when you try to explain these things, you may be tampering with the grace of God.
my friend Dan Agbese was once asked, how do you relax? And Dan said, I relax while walking and I walk while relaxing. First of all, I'm a very restless person. And I try to take a holiday and I go to somebody and I think it's extraordinarily boring to say that I'm just sitting down, relaxing. Relaxation for me is reading a book. I woke up, I went to bed, I woke up at about 2 o'clock. I'm reading Chika Onigwe's new novel, which he sent to me. And then I wake up, I'm reading a novel, I'm reading the Bible, I'm reading all kinds of things. But the thing I'm grateful to God for is that writing and self-expression comes very, very easy for me. Writing comes very easy for me. Many people will think, okay, maybe it takes me a long time to, but that is something that I can say I'm thankful to God for. It's not a skill I acquired by practice. I think it's just a gift of God. And finally, I think that, the greatest energy I get in this country is the incredible degree of appreciation. I mean, the other day I was at the airport and one of these deputy governors was passing. This was about 3 years or so ago. And I'd never met him. So that was the day I was at the airport and I met John Pepe Clark for the first time. So I was so excited. I shook him, we hugged, and then all of a sudden, one of these deputy governors is passing. Then somebody said, oh, do you know Bishop Kukah? So he turns to me and he's so excited. He said, okay, this is Bishop Kukah. He's the Catholic Bishop of the Diocese of Sokoto. So I get up from my seat to go and greet him. And then all of a sudden, this Alhaji came with Babariga, with his big gowns, and literally separated us. Then he wags his finger. Stop calling him the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto. He's our bishop. When you say Catholic, you are removing us. He is our bishop.
That is brilliant.
So they are little, look, the things I see, the level of appreciation I see in this country, I'm happy I'm a black man, so you can't see when I blush. But it's like amazing. That. And as I said, for me, I go to speak. If you see my table, the kind of invitations I'm getting from across the world, I'm not talking of Nigeria. And speaking comes because I go to deliver a lecture. The good thing about it is that when I'm researching for a paper, I'm also learning. And I think that learning is an endless thing, but I can just say that what gives me the energy is the level of appreciation that I get. Because, as I said, you meet people everywhere. The other day, I buy an economy ticket. I'm sitting in a plane. Somebody comes and drags me and says, no, go to business class. If I'm going to Sokoto, for example, if I'm on Arik or any of these airlines, unless they don't know early, I may have an economy ticket. Somebody's going to take my ticket and give me a business class. What have I done? So for this, no price is too much to pay. And you know what? I'm convinced that within my lifetime, we will see a great Nigeria.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. And let me also add our own accolade to you from, to the rest of the country. And thank you very much indeed. Bishop Kukah, and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukah is the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese.
Thank you very much, Charles, for having me. And my one appeal and final appeal to Nigerians, let us be calm. The best is still to come.
Well, we'll hope so. We'll hope so. Thank you very much indeed.